we're going to be discussing how to read food labels. Now there are a couple areas on the food label that the manufacturers use to entice you to buy the product. They may say it's lower in fat, they may say it lowers cholesterol or is a good source of fiber. But it's really important that you read your food labels before you purchase or eat foods. Now there's a few areas we're going to concentrate on the food label. The first area is total carbohydrates. We're going to look at protein, total fats, ingredients, and percent daily value. The first area we're going to target is total fats. There are 4 different things that make up the total fat for a product, which includes polyunsaturated fats, monounsaturated fats, saturated fats, and trans fats. Now in order for a food to be classified as low fat, it must contain 3 grams of fat or less per serving. Saturated fats are solid at room temperature and should make up 25% or less of the food that you're consuming. Some examples of saturated fats are butter, coconut oil, and lard. Saturated fats are found in meat, dairy products, and processed foods. Unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature and make up many structures of the body. One of the most popular unsaturated fats are polyunsaturated fats. Those are found in oily fish, grain products, and soybeans. There are a couple of polyunsaturated fats that are constantly making news headlines. Those are omega-3s and omega-6s. Omega-3s have numerous health benefits and are typically found in those fatty fishes. Omega-6s are typically found in sunflower and safflower oil, and when combined in proper ratios with omega-3s, have numerous cardiovascular benefits. Monounsaturated fats are the best fats of all and are found in whole wheat grain products, olive oil, nuts, seeds, and popcorn. Unlike monounsaturated fats, like popcorn, trans fats are the worst fats of all. You should have 0 trans fats in all of your food choices. Trans fats are typically found in processed foods and are put there by food manufacturers. What they do is they take unsaturated or liquid fats and they add hydrogens to them, or hydrogenate them, making them solid at room temperature. Typically in processed foods, they need these fats to keep the food moist and help maintain its shape while it's sitting on the shelves. Now, trans fats are so bad for you because they actually lower your good HDL cholesterol. They also contribute to heart disease and other cardiovascular problems. That's why I try to get all of my fats in monounsaturated sources. The second area we're going to discuss is carbohydrates. Now, total carbohydrates are made up of fiber, sugar, sugar alcohols, and then the other carbohydrates found in the food. Now, fiber and sugar are separated on the label, so it's pretty easy to determine where your carbohydrates are coming from. One thing that is not usually listed on labels is net carbs, but it's very easy to figure out. All you do is you take the total carbohydrates, you subtract out the fiber, sugar alcohols, and the glycerin. And this will give you your net or impact carbs. Now, impact carbs are important because that's going to show you the amount of carbohydrate that's actually going to impact your blood sugar. Now, you want your impact carbs to be at least a single digit, something 9 to 0. It's important that you get enough fiber in your diet. That's why all the foods you choose should have at least 5 grams of fiber. It's recommended that adults should get at least 25 grams of fiber per day. Now, there are a couple of different types of fiber. There's insoluble and soluble fiber. Neither type of fiber is digested by the body, and so it's not used for energy and it never enters the bloodstream. It's just excreted as waste. When mixed with water, soluble fiber forms a gel. It's a very sticky substance and is typically found in fruits, vegetables, dried beans, peas, and other sources. Insoluble fiber is gritty and passes through our digestive system largely intact. About 70% of the fiber in our diets is actually insoluble fiber and comes from things like whole grains, barley, couscous, carrots, celery, cucumbers, and other foods. The third area we want to discuss on the food label is protein. Protein is important for metabolism and building muscle mass. With transitions, we recommend that women get 4 to 6 ounces of protein 3 times a day, and men get 6 to 8 ounces 3 times a day. Now, in order to get these quantities of protein, it's important that you pay attention to the food label. 7 grams of protein equals 1 ounce. Think of an egg as 1 serving of protein. An egg has 7 grams of protein per egg, so in order to meet your requirements for breakfast, you would have to eat 4 egg whites, which would be 28 grams of protein, or 4 ounces. Other examples of proteins are lean meats, poultry, and of course the egg. The fourth area we're going to discuss is the ingredients section. Now, it's important, if you don't know if a food is low glycemic or not, that you concentrate on the ingredients. The first 7 or 8 ingredients of the food, if they are low glycemic, usually means that the food you're going to consume is also low glycemic. Now, it's very important that you make yourself familiar with various forms of sugar. Sugars can be hidden in ingredient labels and are typically found in the forms of high fructose corn syrup, cane juice, molasses, and brown rice syrup. They're also found in many other forms. There are lots of names for whole grains. A food is not a whole grain if it is labeled as multigrain, 100% wheat, stone ground, or bran. Whole and sprouted grains are preferred over refined grains and are found in forms including whole wheat, whole oats, brown rice, bulgur, graham flour, oatmeal, whole grain corn, whole rye, and wild rice. Just because a grain is a whole grain does not mean it's low glycemic. You will have to compare the whole grains to the glycemic index to make sure it's acceptable with transitions. The final area of the label we're going to discuss is percent daily value. Percent daily value is represented with a percentage sign and the letters DV, and is a term on food labels based on the RDA, which is the recommended dietary allowance. The recommended dietary allowance is used to help consumers plan a healthy diet based on the food label. And the percent daily value is used to show consumers the amount of nutrients they get from each serving of the food they are consuming. For example, the daily value for fat based on a 2,000 calorie diet is 65 grams of fat. A food that has 13 grams of fat per serving would state on the label that the percent daily value for fat is 20%. Percent daily value also serves as the basis for descriptive words such as high in fiber or low fat. In order for a food to be called high in fiber, 1 serving of the food must equal at least 20% of the daily value for fiber. That is, 5 grams or more. Reading labels is not tricky, but one of the most common mistakes people make is when they see something that says low fat or low sodium, they think the food is actually low fat or has low sodium. It actually means that it has 25% less fat or less sodium depending on the food. So, for example, this soup here says 25% less sodium. Now, if this soup had 1,000 milligrams of sodium, because it has 25% less, it would still have 750 milligrams, which would still make it a high sodium food. Another common mistake is that people get confused with percent daily value with percent of calories from fat. If the percent daily value is 15%, that doesn't mean that 15% of the calories come from fat. It really means that you're using up 15% of all the fat you need for the day with that one food. Also, don't make the mistake of thinking just because sugar is listed on the label, the sugar has actually been added. A prime example of this is milk. Milk has naturally occurring sugars, which are shown on the label, but no sugar has been added. The opposite of this would be yogurt. Even though yogurt is made from milk and has some naturally occurring sugars, typically yogurt has added sugar. So it's important to look at the ingredients section before you consume your yogurt. Another part of the label you want to concentrate on is serving size. Now, if you get your food from a vending machine or it comes in small packages, you may just assume that it's 1 serving. If you look at this bar, you'll see that it's 2.5 servings. So you would have to multiply everything on this bar label by 2.5. There are also some other phrases that you'll find on food labels, such as no fat or fat-free. In order for a food to be no fat or fat-free, it can only have half a gram of fat per serving. The term light is a bit misleading. It means that the food contains a third of the calories or half the fat of the original product. If a food is labeled as low sodium, it contains less than 140 milligrams of sodium per 100 gram serving. And finally, if a package says a good source of fiber, it contains 2.5 to 4.9 grams of fiber per serving. So, now that we've covered all the most important areas of the food label and common mistakes people make while reading food labels, you should be able to prepare a delicious, nutritious, low glycemic meal like this. Let's recap. When reviewing a label, we need to concentrate on the serving size, total fat, carbohydrates, protein, ingredients, and percent daily value. When making food choices, we want to avoid foods that have any trans fats. We also want to have at least 5 grams of fiber and 5 grams of protein, as well as choose foods where the first 7 to 8 ingredients are low glycemic. So, if you can keep these simple suggestions handy, then you'll always make good food choices. This has been Christy Lay, your Certified Transitions Lifestyle Coach. Good luck and stay healthy.